Okay, and welcome back, hour number 3. As you notice on the homepage at Rense, there is a top story, center column. It will be there for as long as I'm around. It is the Fukushima nuclear catastrophe. Of course, all the news in the mainstream media about Ebola has people really concerned, afraid, anxious. No one's concerned, afraid, or anxious about the real threat to their lives, their future, their children's lives, their great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren's lives. Believe me, and we are not out of the woods by any measure. At any time, if any of those spent fuel pools, 1, 2, or 3, hit the ground, lose the ability to have water put in them, they will go critical, and things will get to be dramatically worse very quickly. One of the many stories at the top center that you'll find, Fukushima nuclear waste has been formally detected off the U.S. West Coast from California to Canada. The quote, "There is definitely offshore Fukushima cesium now." You can read the story. There's a video there as well. Test results will not be revealed to the public for several weeks. Well, first of all, we've known that after 3.5 going on 4 years of massive discharges of highly radioactive, deadly water from the Fukushima Daiichi plant into the North Pacific, we knew because of the water currents. Simply look up water currents, North Pacific. Look at the maps. It'll show you exactly where the waters run. And the direct channel, it's like a superhighway, almost originates right off the area where Fukushima is located on the east side of Japan, and brings the water, otherwise known as the Kurashio, via the North Pacific current right over to the west coast, where it splits. Some of it goes up to BC and into the Aleutian Islands. It goes round and round up there, as I've said before, like a flushed toilet where it has no outlet. It just concentrates. And that's what it's doing right now as we speak. The rest of it heads down the west coast, all the way down to Baja, and then turns and heads west across the Pacific and starts the cycle all over again. It is a vicious cycle. It is a deadly cycle. Cesium is the fingerprint radionuclide of Fukushima, the disaster there. Cesium comes from a catastrophe like that. It doesn't normally run around in quantities like we're seeing at all. There are also well over 100, maybe 200 different radionuclides, perhaps just as deadly, with longer half-lives, that no one talks about, that are being discharged constantly into the air, into the ground, and into the water by Fukushima. So please look at the stories there, and just because let me just back up. It makes me really disgusted at the mainstream media that they will not, cannot, and are not allowed to talk about this disaster. They're not. Ken Buesler of the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute is saying things now that are kind of nutty. He's saying, I'm not concerned. There is definitely offshore Fukushima cesium now, but it's not on the beaches. It's offshore. Well, how the hell does he know? They went out and tested at 25 feet, and they got their samples. We know about the Kelp Watch 2014 fraud that UC Berkeley is basically going to pronounce on when it's done. The third sampling this winter, 3 samples over a year of kelp along California, 19 different locations, sent to UC Berkeley for analysis. Dr. Kai Vetter there, the head of the program, Nuclear Physics at Berkeley, announced before the first sample had been taken that we're not going to find anything, so don't worry. Pretty stupid. I put that up, and within a week he had to backtrack and withdraw his comments. Not exactly scientific. We're going to go tonight up to Dana Durnford, who is on a research expedition. Yochi is tied up with business matters and traveling right now, and he sends his regrets. He'll be here next Monday. And if you had a chance to see the video that Dana sent down to me of his daring do, I don't know what it is. They're in a 21 or 24 foot self-righting Zodiac, and they were in heavy seas. I mean, capital H. I was amazed. The video is up there. You'll find it in the Fukushima repository, the archive on the right-hand side, and you can take a ride with Dana in the ocean, and I wouldn't do that. Not on a bet. Dana, are you there?
Yes, I am, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here tonight. A little early. We always try and make sure we have plenty of time so you can let us know what's going on up there. But this Ken Buesler started out, if some of you long-time listeners know, or you folks who have watched this, started out by saying some very, I think, intelligent, responsible things about Fukushima and the radioactivity coming from it. And then he changed. He changed his tune. Almost 180 degrees. And now he is acting pretty much like he is a shill for the powers that be. I don't know if you agree or not, but I'm not impressed with the man anymore. I think he's lost his scientific objectivity, and I think he's playing very conservative games with people's minds and ultimately their lives. How do you see it?
I feel that they got over 800 scientists at Woods Hole, and they roll out a marine chemist instead of a nuclear scientist is pretty telling.
There you go.
How can you have so many scientists and not have a nuclear scientist? And why wouldn't you have a nuclear scientist? And how hard would it be to get one when you're at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute?
They got 800 there, huh? I didn't know that.
Yeah, 825, I think it is the actual number.
Wow.
And Ken Buesler got a habit of equating radiation with bananas. And so he shouldn't be talking about it because he's a marine chemist and he says stuff like that. But for some reason, he get a lot of traction. And you see him at National Geographic. He'll be up on all the mainstream media. And they'll quote him word for word. But media, for some reason, cannot bother to check and see that the potassium-40 in the banana is actually homeostasis. And they quote him and actually support him. And like you had said earlier, the media just can't and won't. Couldn't anyway tell anything because that's the game.
Whenever you hear anybody cite the banana analogy about radioactivity and ingesting it, you just want to turn a walk.
Switch it off.
Yeah, it's over, done.
And he does it all the time. He does it in lectures, and nobody ever calls him on it. And that's, to me, is unbelievable.
He's
that's
a
why
hack.
We're in all trouble. Yeah,
we are in trouble.
Yeah, we are in trouble because of that kind of rhetoric that they do, and they just keep repeating it. And so we run into those people, and then the people that are trying to work through it, they have that rolling around in their mind, and they can't reconcile it because a professional told them, and he's Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution.
He must be the real deal.
Why would he lie? And I don't know, but he did. Yeah. It's actually a lie, 100%, and it's easy to confirm it. On top of that a banana truly got nothing to do with equals MC squared. No matter how you try to spin it or how you try to flip it. And another one you see, of course, is when you take the Geiger counter and you read the banana. That can't be done either. The Geiger counter don't pick up potassium-40. Usually they dry out like a cubic meter of water, and then they weigh it up by the gram, and every gram of potassium-40 is 25 becquerels. And that's how they come up with how many becquerels of potassium-40 is acceptable in drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they actually get the numbers, because you can't do it with a machine. And yet you see that thrown out there all the time, that it's the animosity equivalent of it, when how can it be? And so that really, it took me a long time to get past that years ago. And when I found out that a banana was considered what they call homeostasis, and so that means your body regulates it.
Correct.
And people don't really can grasp that for some reason, but when you tell them that part, you start to get it, that there's actually truly potassium-40, which is thrown into the equation as potato chips, as walking in sunshine sometimes, even though that's not equal, but it's thrown in as it's just your food or the stuff that you drink. And, of course, this is something that everything on the planet got millions of years of genetic superior selection and is already acclimated to it. And it's the same thing with the radon gas and everything else. We're actually genetically selected to deal with all of that stuff. It's not an issue. And it's got nothing to do with the nuclear industry itself. It's not an ionized radiated element. And there is no safe level, of course, Jeff, as you've proven many times, of course.
Yeah.
That if they keep doing that, it's then they have lost all credibility because of that. Now we can go back and look at all the videos that they put out talking about radiation over the years, and we'll find them all doing that. We find all of our institutions and we find all of our media repeating those exact same for 70 years, That's the favorite lines. Is like, and then of course like walking in the sunshine, which is got nothing to do with it. This is what humans are designed to do. It's not an issue. There's nothing on the planet that has an issue. It's not man-made ionized radiation. These elements are natural, and everything on the planet is already acclimated to it. And then for the flying in the airplane routine. Mm-hmm. And so it's really difficult at this stage to find a nuclear scientist that is actually talking. And so they roll out these people, and all they can, and that's what they say over and over, but they're not the actual nuclear scientists. So how come we're not seeing them weigh in on that debate? And we only seen them weigh in on the debate originally, the first
right.
week.
That's very interesting, that Buessler does not really have a nuclear background. And right, that would be the number one thing that, if Woods Hole were legit, that they would put forward. And not just one, sure. They'd put 2 or 3 on the case immediately.
Right.
And when this report comes out, watch for it. We'll have it for you. We'll talk to Dana about it. It's going to be a lie, and it'll be designed to do the obvious. So, don't be surprised. We're going to tear that apart. Can you believe this guy? The current runs down the coast. Of course, nothing moves on shore. It just goes right on by. Just amazing.
He's got, he put a presentation at MIT out on YouTube, and it's the full presentation. And one of the first things it does is show a model from 2 institutions in Japan, 2 universities, of the current dragging out the elements 1,500 kilometers in the first 30 days. And he's got 2 sources for that. Mm-hmm. But according to him, it turns into potassium-40 when it gets there. And it can't. It doesn't lose its... Like the cesium is not going to change.
Well, wait a minute. What is he... I haven't seen this, but what is he saying?
He actually says it goes out 1,500 miles, but then he equates it with potassium-40, the same numbers with potassium-40.
That's ridiculous.
And he doesn't go past that. He doesn't say, in 2 months it'll be here, in 3 months it'll be over there.
It stops out there magically and disappears. But he's saying that these nuclide cesium and others somehow
morph into potassium-40.
They morph into potassium. This is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, this is laughable.
It is, and I played the clips many times up on my site. And he does this repeatedly in these lectures, and that's really what got me wound up about him and got my attention, because he wouldn't give it up. He was out there, and I thought, all these institutions, somebody would say the question, but you never hear that in a lecture. You always hear the stupidest question: can you relate it like X-rays, or can you relate it like flying in an airplane? And these all seem like they're set up, Surely everybody can't be this stupid that they would always refer to it that way, no matter how good the brainwashing is. You would think you would get a real question. Now, I've never seen a real question posed to these people and hold them accountable, and it's very simple. All someone's got to say is a banana is homeostasis, Ken, and so why are you using that in this equation? I mean, really, that's what's going to happen is people are going to have to get up and walk out.
Yeah.
But I think the audiences are seated for the questions, as particularly with the Fukushima accident at MIT, at Stanford, at Harvard, and UC Berkeley. They all put out videos in that first week, and all of their students asked the complete worst question imaginable, and all these students had identified themselves as nuclear students, as going to classes at those institutions.
Nuclear physics.
You would expect a real question to come out of that.
Yeah.
They didn't.
Yeah. No, it's been managed. No, they managed it. Inexorable. They're very quick. They're very thorough. And if they screw up, it'll be right in the beginning, but then they'll carefully cover it up, and it'll be gone. It'll be just a memory. How many, and I ask all of you folks, maybe some of you are new to the program, I ask you, how many news conferences has the EPA held to formally talk to America about radioactivity in the Pacific Ocean and what's being discharged, not just in the water, but in the air as well, by Japan, which continues to burn radioactive debris around the clock in these huge incinerators? How many news conferences has the EPA held? And the answer is 0.
0. Yes. That was brilliant, by the way. Good one. Really good. Yes. Because, you're telling people so much. You're telling people so much in just that little tiny bit that they're actually burning the debris over there in the incinerators right across the country, folks. And that stuff... Go ahead, Jeff.
No, normally, if a country were to do that, the UN would go crazy, the world would be, the Northern Hemisphere, every country in the Northern Hemisphere would be bitching and yelling, as they should be. No one has said a word about this. We get smog over here from China. Okay, folks?
Big time.
You think we don't get radioactivity over here from Japan?
Those particles are way bigger. And we get the forest fires, they come over too on top of that, the particles are way bigger than everything that's coming out of Fukushima. And Fukushima, particles are so small, they don't really need to get into the jet stream to get carried across.
They just float right across.
And they can easily float right on across, and they will.
Yeah.
And they have, and they haven't stopped. I mean, the first 7 months, non-stop, it didn't stop hemorrhaging into the atmosphere, not to mention the ocean, of course, but the atmosphere. And that gets rained out into the ocean and rained out on the coastlines in North America in particular we're talking about tonight. And everything on the west side of the Rocky Mountains washes down to the Pacific, and everything on the east side of the Rocky Mountains heads to the Gulf and the Atlantic.
Mississippi.
Right. And this is why the coastlines are in such bad shape, because they're getting hit from the ocean and they're getting hit from the washback, the blowback, after it gets deposited in North America. And so a lot of people still have a hard time with that one, but that's really truly the simplest way to look at it. If you live on the coastline, everything that got deposited and that does get carried could be very well carried out past your way, and it'll pollute your communities, it'll pollute your water supplies, it'll pollute your water taps themselves. And so the solution is we have 4,300 peer-reviewed academic studies every day in North America that are published. And so, a sign of good faith is that we could start working towards dealing with the issues instead of ignoring it. And like what Jeff is doing, and a whole lot of people out there are doing, and including myself, and the amazing amount of people that are supporting myself is just incredible support. And, we're buttoned up and ready to go this week, but 4,300 peer-reviewed studies every day.
That's amazing.
I think everybody can agree with me. If there was a meteorite coming at us, and we could all look up and see that meteorite, we would want those 4,300 peer-reviewed, moral at least, working on that feller. And we're hoping, like you're doing with all the work you're doing, I'm doing, and everybody else is doing, that the world will come to its senses in the very near future, and that's what will ultimately have to happen for us to have a way forward. Because this is not, as you know, Jeff, way so well, that this is not fairy tale, folks. There really truly is 3 melted reactors plus all the other carnage, and there really truly is a jet stream, and there really is an ocean current, and this stuff truly is hemorrhaging like we've never seen on this planet ever. There's no comparison to it in our entire history, to a single full 100% meltdown, let alone the 3 of them, and let alone the plutonium that was in them, and let alone the fact that there was MOX fuel in this, which makes it 2 million times worse than any other reactor on the planet. That makes it 18 million times worse than Chernobyl. Chernobyl, 1/3 the size. Chernobyl, 30% meltdown. Chernobyl was graphite. Yeah. Chernobyl, they brought in 600,000 conscripted, educated people, and they brought in 400,000 tradespeople. Chernobyl, 600 pilots and helicopters. They all died of radiation sickness. Honorable men, men who knew what they were going into, men who left their dosimeters behind, men who wanted to get the job done at all costs and did pay that price. In Fukushima, we're victimizing and we're taking the most harmless and the most mentally challenged and vulnerable people on the planet and throwing them into a fray, and it's not right. As a society, we shouldn't look back on this one moment in time and say, when it came to the fight of this entire 8.8 million species, we gave them the homeless. That's shocking. That's shocking, and there's so many people that are willing to go to battle against this thing, and so many corporations that are capable of it, and so many countries that are crying for the opportunity. And Japan won't let nobody in. Japan won't let anybody access anything. And then they build fables and fairy tales, and they feed it to us through the media, and at some point this is going to go bang.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one or the other. It's going to be something happen at Fukushima, and they can't get back in there ever again, and finally the world will wake up. Or the world will wake up and look and say, there's a meteorite called Fukushima, folks, and we got to get busy. And I think that's a better way forward.
I think you're right.
The only way forward.
Yeah, something, you just said something that I've said occasionally, that this thing could get so bad there that no one could or would go in there to try to deal with it. Right. They would just have to walk away, and the Northern Hemisphere would be finished. it could get that bad.
Will kill you. And you can get hundreds right away, 92 it, and get a lot harder than that.
Well, your statistics are just awesome when you compare that, as you just did, to Chernobyl. And the media likes to do that. They like to make it seem, well, Chernobyl was survivable. And no, Chernobyl was a mess, and it irradiated much of Eastern and Western Europe. Nobody talked about that. It's still on the ground all over the place there. It's going to be there for a long time. However, what we're doing here now is watching something that is on orders of magnitude of 18 million times worse in a legitimate comparison than Chernobyl.
Yes, it is.
Nobody talks about it. Nobody. So it is absolutely shocking. And as you say, to throw semi-competent, almost mentally disabled people in there, which is what they're doing, they're just disposable carbon robots, is what they are. It is criminal, and that it's another sign that nothing can be done there. They're just going through the motions.
Because they won't try. Yeah.
No.
Sounds like I got a beer. That beer is back again, Jeff. I just don't mean to digress, but it's going for my cooler.
What is?
A big old bear right there. But get out of my cooler, yo. He's got my apples.
Is that right? There's a bear right now going into your cooler.
Right this second, right now. He got my apples out now. He'll be okay. He's got a dozen apples. That'll keep him happy.
What is this?
It's all going to go crazy.
What kind of a bear is it?
He's a big black bear. He's about 350 pounds, I guess, 400 pounds. And normally I get up and I hit him with, he's been here 3 nights. I wasn't expecting him like that. I hit him with strobe light. And he doesn't like the strobe light, and he usually goes away. 4 o'clock this morning, he got all my chicken roast and everything. And I got me roast inside tonight, buddy, and not like you. He can have my apples. There's not much left out there. He cleaned me out last night, that feller. I'm right up here by this river that's full of salmon, and here he is over here. They got what they call a salmon run going on here right now. It's a big run. That's the only time I've ever seen any seagulls. And he's been over here snacking on my stuff.
Too funny. We'll get some pictures of that. That's funny. Hold on, Dana. We have to take a break. Okay. We'll come right back.
I'll get some pictures.
All right, good. Dana Durnford up there fighting off bears in addition to Fukushima. All right. Hang on.